My dear brothers and sisters, before you move on, let me ask you to stay with me for just a few moments. Because this moment you are in right now is not as ordinary as it feels. You did not arrive here by chance. You did not stop here by accident. Something inside you slowed down before your mind even understood why. There are times when Allah does not call a person loudly. He calls them quietly, through a feeling, through a pause, through a heaviness in the heart that no distraction seems to remove. And if you are listening to this right now, especially in a quiet moment of your day or night, let me tell you something gently. This is not random. There are people who will scroll past these words and feel nothing. And then there are people who stop not because they were looking for a video, but because their soul was looking for reassurance. If that is you, then let me speak to you personally. You may be carrying something you have not told anyone about, a question you keep pushing away, a tiredness that sleep does not fix, a feeling that something in your life is changing, even if you cannot explain what it is. And Allah often begins His greatest work in a person at exactly this point. Not when they feel strong, not when they feel confident, but when they feel quiet, unsure and open. So before you move on, before you let the noise of the world take your attention again, stay here for a few minutes. Because what you are about to hear is not meant for everyone. It is meant for the heart that is ready to be reminded that it is seen, guided and never walking alone. The quiet moment Allah used to stop your scroll. My dear brothers and sisters, let me speak to you softly, because this moment is not loud and it is not random. You did not come here because you were searching for something specific. You came here because something inside you slowed down. Your thumb paused, your mind paused, your heart leaned forward, even if you did not notice it. And sometimes Allah begins His message with nothing more than a pause. Life usually moves quickly. Days pass without asking us how we feel. Responsibilities stack up. People expect things from us. Messages arrive before we have even finished thinking about the last one. We wake up already running and we fall asleep already tired. In all of this movement, the heart often becomes quiet in a way that is not peaceful but distant. It keeps going but it stops feeling. Tonight, something different happened. Tonight, you stopped. Not because the world became quiet, not because all your problems were suddenly solved, but because your soul asked for a moment. It leaned forward gently and said, "Let me breathe." There are moments when Allah does not change what is happening around you. He changes what is happening within you. He turns your attention away from the noise outside and brings it back to the space inside your chest, where your heart lives, where your intentions live, where your connection with Him quietly waits. You may not even be able to explain what you are feeling right now. It might feel like tiredness. It might feel like heaviness. It might feel like a soft sadness without a clear story behind it. Or it might feel like a calm that you were not expecting. Whatever it is, do not rush past it. Because sometimes this feeling is not a problem, it is an invitation. Allah often speaks to us in ways that do not use sound. He does not always send a clear sign that everyone can see. Sometimes He sends a feeling that only you can carry. A gentle pull inside your heart that says, there is more to you than what you are giving your life to right now. Think about how many times in your day you move without really being present. You walk, but your mind is somewhere else. You listen, but your heart is distracted. You pray, but your thoughts wander. This is not because you are a bad person. It is because the world is loud and the heart is soft. So Allah creates moments like this. Moments where the noise fades just enough for you to hear yourself again. You may be sitting alone. You may be in a quiet room. You may be lying down after a long day and suddenly you feel something that you cannot quite name. It feels like awareness, like your heart is waking up from a long sleep. This is not emptiness. This is presence. This is the heart, remembering that it belongs to Allah before it belongs to anything else in this world. My dear brothers and sisters, let me tell you something very gentle and very important. Allah does not need you to be perfect to speak to you. He does not wait for you to have everything in your life in order. He does not wait for you to feel strong, confident, or spiritually high. He meets you exactly where you are. If you are tired, He meets you in your tiredness. If you are confused, He meets you in your questions. If you are hurting, He meets you in your pain. And sometimes the way He meets you is by giving you a moment like this, a quiet moment where the world steps back and your heart steps forward. You may have carried things today that no one else knows about, a worry you did not share, a disappointment you hid behind a smile, a fear you pushed down because you did not want to burden anyone. These things do not disappear just because you keep going. They stay inside you, quietly taking up space. But Allah sees them all. He sees the version of you that shows up for others while something inside feels heavy. He sees the strength you use just to get through the day. And sometimes He gives you a pause, not to test you, but to care for you. This pause is like a soft hand on the heart that says you do not have to run right now. You can sit, you can breathe, you can remember me. My dear brothers and sisters, guidance does not always arrive as a clear answer. It does not always come as a sudden solution to your problems. Sometimes guidance comes as a shift in how you see your problems. You may still have the same responsibilities tomorrow. You may still face the same challenges. You may still walk into the same world. But inside you, something becomes a little steadier, a little calmer, a little more trusting. And that change inside you can carry you through things that once felt impossible. Think about the way a child looks for their parent in a crowded place. The noise is loud, people are moving, everything feels overwhelming. But when the child sees the face they recognize, something inside them settles. In the same way, when your heart turns back toward Allah, even for a moment, something inside you settles. The world does not suddenly become easy, but it becomes lighter to carry. This is why moments like this matter. They are not just about listening to words. They are about remembering who you are standing before in your life. You are not just a person moving through days, chasing goals, managing problems and trying to survive. You are a soul walking toward Allah, and every now and then Allah reminds you of that. You may wonder why this reminder came to you and not to someone else, why you feel this pull, this awareness, this quiet longing. The answer is not because you are better than anyone else. It is because Allah knows what your heart can carry. He knows the depth inside you. He knows the questions you ask in the quiet. He knows the way you think about things that others may not even notice. And so, He speaks to you in a way that fits your heart. My dear brothers and sisters, do not underestimate the power of small moments. We often think that change only happens through big events. A major loss, a great success, a dramatic experience. But sometimes the most important changes begin with something very simple. A pause, a feeling, a moment of awareness, a quiet turning of the heart back to Allah. This is how a person begins to grow without realizing it. This is how a soul begins to soften. This is how a heart begins to heal. You may not walk away from this moment feeling completely different. You may not suddenly feel strong or inspired or full of energy, and that is okay. Not every seed grows the moment it is planted. Some seeds sit quietly in the soil for a long time before anything appears on the surface. But something is happening underneath. In the same way, when you allow your heart to sit in remembrance, even for a short while, something is happening inside you, even if you cannot yet see it. My dear brothers and sisters, let me ask you something gently. When was the last time you sat with yourself without trying to escape the feeling inside your chest? Not with your phone, not with a distraction, not with noise, but just you and your thoughts, you and your heart, you and Allah. These moments can feel uncomfortable at first, because when everything becomes quiet, the things we have been carrying start to speak. The worries, the regrets, the hopes, the fears. The questions about where we are going and who we are becoming. But this discomfort is not meant to push you away. It is meant to draw you closer to the one who can carry these things better than you can. Allah does not ask you to understand everything in your life. He asks you to trust Him with it. And trust does not grow in loud moments. It grows in quiet ones. It grows when you say, Ya Allah, I do not fully understand what you are doing in my life, but I believe you are doing something good. It grows when you sit in the stillness and allow your heart to lean on Him instead of leaning on answers. My dear brothers and sisters, this moment is small, but it is meaningful. It may be just a few minutes in your day, just a short pause in your night, but it is a reminder that you are not alone in your journey. Allah is with you in your movement. Allah is with you in your stillness. Allah is with you in your strength. Allah is with you in your weakness. And sometimes He shows you that closeness not through a dramatic sign, but through a quiet feeling that tells you to stay a little longer, to listen a little deeper, to let your heart rest in His remembrance. So do not rush back into the noise just yet. Let this moment sit with you. Let it breathe inside you. Let it remind you that you are not just living a life. You are being guided through it, step by step, moment by moment, even in the quiet. And if all you take from this lesson is this one simple thought, let it be this: the pause you felt tonight was not empty. It was full of care. It was full of meaning. It was full of Allah's gentle attention toward your heart. And that alone is a sign that you are not forgotten. You are being guided. Why your heart no longer feels at home in the same places. My dear brothers and sisters, let me speak to you gently, because this feeling you are carrying is one of the quietest and most misunderstood parts of growth. There was a time when certain places felt warm to you, certain conversations felt easy, certain people felt like home. You could walk into a room and feel like you belonged without having to explain yourself. You could sit with others and feel light, relaxed, and at ease. But now something feels different. You walk into the same spaces and your heart does not settle the way it used to. You listen to the same words and they do not land the same way. You sit in the same gatherings and instead of feeling full, you feel tired. And you may quietly ask yourself, what is wrong with me? Let me tell you something softly. Nothing is wrong with you. Something is changing. Sometimes we think growth always feels like excitement. We think it feels like motivation, energy, and confidence. But very often, real growth begins with discomfort. It begins with a strange feeling of not fitting anymore in places that once felt familiar. This is not because those places suddenly became bad. It is because your heart became different. When Allah begins to work on a soul, one of the first things He changes is what that soul finds satisfying. What once filled you starts to feel empty. What once entertained you starts to feel shallow. What once felt like enough starts to feel like something is missing. This can be confusing because on the outside, nothing may have changed. The people may still be kind. The environment may still be safe. The routine may still be the same. But inside you, there is a quiet shift. It feels like your heart is looking for something deeper, even if you do not yet know what that deeper thing is. My dear brothers and sisters, this feeling often shows up in small ways. You may find yourself becoming quiet in conversations where you once spoke freely. You may find yourself listening more and talking less. You may find that jokes you once enjoyed no longer make you laugh the same way. You may find that certain topics no longer interest you. And you may wonder if you are becoming distant or strange or difficult. But sometimes this is not distance. This is discernment. Allah begins to teach your heart the difference between what passes time and what carries meaning. Between what fills the moment and what fills the soul. Between what is loud and what is true. This can feel lonely, because not everyone around you will be in the same place in their journey. You may be sitting in a room full of people and still feel like you are alone inside your own thoughts. But let me tell you something important. This loneliness is not a sign that you are being left behind. It is often a sign that you are being called forward. There are times when Allah gently moves a person out of comfort so that they can move closer to purpose. If you stay too comfortable in one place, you may never feel the need to grow. So Allah creates a subtle restlessness, not a dramatic pain, not a clear sign, just a quiet feeling that says there is more for you than this. Think about a traveler who stays too long in one town. The town may be beautiful, the people may be kind, the food may be good, but if the traveler never leaves, they will never see what is beyond that place. So something inside them eventually starts to itch. They start to feel the road calling them. In the same way, your heart is a traveler. It was not created to settle permanently in anything of this world. It was created to move toward Allah. So when it starts to feel uncomfortable in certain places, it does not always mean those places are harmful. It can mean that your heart is being reminded that it does not belong to the world in the same way it once thought it did. My dear brothers and sisters, this feeling can show up in relationships as well. You may find that you no longer connect with someone the way you used to. The conversations feel forced. The silence feels heavy. The understanding that once flowed easily now feels strained. And this can be painful because we often hold on to people as if they are meant to walk with us through every stage of our lives. But sometimes Allah allows people to walk with us only for a season. Not because anyone did something wrong, but because the journey is changing and the pace is changing and the direction is changing. This does not mean you stop being kind. It does not mean you stop being respectful. It does not mean you stop caring. It simply means you accept that not everyone is meant to grow in the same direction at the same time. My dear brothers and sisters, one of the hardest parts of this stage is that it often comes without clear answers. If something painful happens, we can point to it and say, this is why I feel this way. But when growth happens quietly, there is no single moment you can blame or explain. You just wake up one day and realize, I am not the same person I was. And that realization can be unsettling. Because if you are not the same person, then what does that mean for your life, your plans, your relationships, your dreams? Let me tell you something gently. It does not mean everything will fall apart. It means everything is being reoriented. Allah does not grow a heart without caring for what that growth will require. He does not pull you away from one place without guiding you toward another, even if you cannot yet see where that other place is. Sometimes the guidance is not a new destination. Sometimes it is a new way of being in the same place. You may still go to the same work, still live in the same home, still see the same people. But inside you, your priorities begin to shift. What matters becomes clearer. What does not matter becomes lighter. And slowly, without a dramatic announcement, your life begins to move in a different direction. My dear brothers and sisters, let me speak to the fear that often comes with this stage. The fear of being alone, the fear of not belonging, the fear of losing connections that once made you feel safe. These fears are real. They sit quietly in the background and whisper questions like, what if I end up with no one? What if I become someone people do not understand? What if I grow away from everyone? But let me remind you of something very important. You are not growing away from people. You are growing toward Allah. And when a person grows toward Allah, they do not become empty. They become full in a different way. A way that does not depend entirely on who is around them. A way that does not collapse when relationships change. A way that finds stability in something deeper than circumstance. This does not mean you stop loving people. It means you stop making people the center of your heart in a way that only Allah should be. My dear brothers and sisters, sometimes Allah allows you to feel out of place in the world so that you feel more at home with Him. You may find yourself drawn to prayer more than before, drawn to quiet moments, drawn to reflection, drawn to asking questions about your life, your choices, and your purpose. These are not signs of confusion. They are signs of awakening. The heart is waking up to the reality that life is not just about passing time. It is about preparing for something beyond time. And when that realization begins to settle in, it naturally changes how you experience everything else. My dear brothers and sisters, let me say this clearly. You do not have to force this change. You do not have to rush it. You do not have to explain it to everyone around you. Not everyone will understand what you are feeling, and that is okay. Growth is often a private journey before it becomes a visible one. What you can do is stay gentle with yourself. If you feel tired in certain spaces, allow yourself to step back and breathe. If you feel quiet in certain conversations, allow yourself to listen instead of pretending. If you feel drawn to silence, allow yourself to sit in it without immediately trying to escape. Because in that silence, Allah often shapes the heart in ways that words cannot. My dear brothers and sisters, This stage is not about becoming better than others. It is about becoming more honest with yourself, more aware of what truly nourishes you, more careful with what you allow into your heart. You begin to realize that not everything deserves your energy. Not every voice deserves your attention. Not every opinion deserves a place in your mind. This is not arrogance. This is protection. Just as you protect your body from things that make it sick, Allah teaches your heart to protect itself from things that make it spiritually tired. And sometimes that protection feels like distance. It feels like stepping back. It feels like standing on the edge of a room instead of in the center of it. But in that space, something beautiful happens. You begin to see more clearly. You begin to hear more honestly. You begin to understand yourself in a deeper way. My dear brothers and sisters, let me end this lesson with a gentle reminder. If your heart no longer feels at home in the same places, do not immediately assume you have lost something. Ask yourself instead, what am I being invited toward? Sometimes Allah does not take something away. He makes room for something greater. Sometimes He does not close a door. He opens a window in your heart so you can see a different horizon. And even if you cannot yet see where this path is leading, trust the one who is guiding you on it. Because the heart that is being led by Allah is never truly lost. It is simply on its way to a deeper kind of home. The hidden shift happening inside you that you cannot see yet. My dear brothers and sisters, let me speak to the part of you that feels tired in a way that sleep does not fix. You may lie down at night and rest your body, but when you wake up, your heart still feels heavy. You move through your day, you complete your tasks, you speak to people, you smile when you need to. But inside there is a quiet distance, like a part of you is standing back and watching your own life instead of fully stepping into it. And you may wonder, why do I feel this way when nothing is clearly wrong? Let me tell you gently. Sometimes this feeling is not a sign that something is broken. It is a sign that something is being rebuilt. There are changes Allah makes in a person that do not show on the outside. Your life may look the same to everyone else. You may still go to the same places, talk to the same people, and live within the same routine. But inside you, the ground is shifting. And when the ground shifts, the heart feels it before the eyes can see it. This stage often feels like standing in the middle of a bridge. You can still see where you came from, but you cannot yet see clearly where you are going. The old version of you no longer fits the way it used to, but the new version of you has not fully appeared. So you stand in between, and this in-between space feels like restlessness. It feels like emotional weight. It feels like a quiet confusion that you cannot easily explain to anyone else. But this space is not empty. It is active. It is where Allah begins to loosen your attachment to who you were, so He can prepare you for who you are becoming. My dear brothers and sisters, think about the way a tree grows. You do not see the roots stretching deeper into the ground. You only notice the branches when they finally reach higher into the sky. But without the hidden work below the surface, the tree would never be able to stand tall when the wind comes. In the same way, Allah often works on the roots of your heart before He changes the shape of your life. He deepens your patience. He softens your pride. He sharpens your awareness. He strengthens your trust. And all of this happens quietly, in moments when you think nothing important is happening at all. You may feel like you are standing still while everyone else seems to be moving forward. You may scroll through the lives of others and see their progress, their happiness, their achievements. And inside a question may rise, when is it my turn? But let me tell you something with kindness. Not every season is meant for visible growth. Some seasons are meant for invisible preparation. A seed buried in the ground looks like it has disappeared. To someone passing by, it seems like nothing is happening. But beneath the surface, something powerful is unfolding. The seed is breaking open. The old form is being destroyed so a new form can emerge. And that breaking is not gentle. It is uncomfortable. It is dark. It is quiet. But it is necessary. In the same way, this stage of your life may feel like a kind of inner breaking. The things you once relied on for comfort no longer work the same way. The distractions that once helped you forget now feel empty. The plans you once held tightly now feel uncertain. And you may feel like you are losing pieces of yourself. But what you are really losing is what you have outgrown. My dear brothers and sisters, this hidden shift often shows up in the way you think. You begin to question things you never questioned before. You begin to reflect on your choices, your intentions, your direction. You begin to ask, why am I doing this? Instead of just, how do I do this? And these questions can feel heavy, because once you start asking why, you cannot easily go back to living on the surface. Allah does not give every heart this kind of depth. When He allows you to feel this shift, it is because He trusts you with it. He knows you can carry the weight of awareness. He knows you can sit with questions without running from them. He knows you can grow through discomfort instead of becoming bitter from it. My dear brothers and sisters, let me speak to the fear that sometimes rises in this stage. The fear of losing control. The fear of not knowing what comes next. The fear of feeling like you are drifting without a clear direction. These fears are natural. We like to feel like we understand our lives. We like to feel like we can predict what will happen if we just plan well enough and try hard enough. But sometimes Allah removes that sense of control on purpose. Not to make you anxious, but to teach you trust. Trust does not grow when everything is predictable. It grows when you place your heart in Allah's hands and say, I do not fully understand what you are doing, but I believe you are doing something good. This hidden shift is often the moment when a person moves from believing in Allah in words to relying on Allah in their heart. It is the difference between saying, I trust Allah, and actually living as if you do. My dear brothers and sisters, you may notice that you are becoming more sensitive during this time. Things affect you more deeply. Words stay with you longer. Scenes, moments, and even silence carry more weight. And you may think this sensitivity is a weakness, but sometimes it is a sign that your heart is becoming more alive. A heart that feels deeply is a heart that can connect deeply. A heart that is aware is a heart that can turn back to Allah with sincerity. Allah does not harden the hearts. He wants to elevate. He softens them, because a soft heart can be shaped. A soft heart can be guided. A soft heart can receive light. My dear brothers and sisters, let me remind you of something very gentle. You do not have to understand this stage of your life perfectly. You do not have to label it. You do not have to explain it to others. Not every part of your journey is meant to be shared. Some parts are meant to be lived quietly between you and Allah. If you feel like pulling back a little, allow yourself that space. If you feel like sitting in silence, let yourself sit. If you feel like making dua without having the right words, let your heart speak in its own way. Allah understands the language of feelings better than the language of sentences. My dear brothers and sisters, this hidden shift is not something you need to rush through. Just like a seed cannot be pulled out of the ground before it is ready, your heart cannot be forced into its next stage before Allah has completed what He is doing inside you. Patience here is not passive, it is active trust. It is choosing every day to keep turning back to Allah, even when you do not feel strong, even when you do not feel clear, even when you do not feel hopeful. It is saying, Ya Allah, I am here, I am listening, I am open, guide me. And that prayer, even if it is whispered in your heart instead of spoken with your lips, carries great weight. My dear brothers and sisters, one day this hidden shift will become visible. You will notice that you respond differently to things that once upset you. You will notice that you are calmer in situations that once made you anxious. You will notice that your priorities have changed in ways you did not consciously choose. And you will look back at this quiet, confusing, heavy season and realize that it was not wasted. It was formative. It was the season where Allah was not changing your life. He was changing you. So if you are in this space right now, do not be afraid of it. Do not rush to escape it. Do not label it as failure or weakness. See it for what it truly is. A private conversation between your heart and Allah. A hidden workshop where your soul is being shaped. A silent chapter that will one day explain the strength you did not know you had. And remember this, my dear brothers and sisters, what Allah builds in silence often stands strongest in the storm. Trust the hidden work. Trust the quiet growth. Trust the one who is guiding you through a change you cannot yet see. But one day you will deeply understand. When Allah removes something before you understand why. My dear brothers and sisters, let me speak to the moment that hurts in a quiet way. Not the kind of pain that makes you cry in front of others, but the kind that sits with you when the room is empty. The kind that comes back when you finally lie down at night and your mind begins to replay what happened, what changed, what left. There are moments in life when something is taken from you without a clear explanation. A person who once felt close becomes distant. A path you were walking suddenly closes. A plan you built in your heart slowly falls apart, and you are left standing there with questions instead of answers. You may ask yourself, what did I do wrong? You may search through your words, your actions, your intentions, trying to find the mistake that caused this to happen. But let me tell you gently, not everything that leaves your life does so because you failed. Sometimes it leaves because Allah is protecting you from something you cannot yet see. We often look at life from the point where we are standing. We see the comfort of the present moment. We see the relief of having someone, something, or some direction in our lives. But Allah sees the road ahead. He sees the turns you have not reached yet. He sees the outcomes you cannot imagine. So when something is about to become a burden instead of a blessing, Allah sometimes steps in quietly and removes it. And because the removal happens before the harm, it feels confusing. It feels unfair. It feels sudden. But mercy does not always feel gentle in the moment it arrives. My dear brothers and sisters, think about a child who reaches for something sharp. The parent does not explain everything. They simply pull the child's hand away. To the child, it feels like interruption. It feels like loss. But to the parent, it is protection. In the same way, Allah sometimes pulls things out of our hands without giving us a full explanation right away. Not because He is distant, but because He is close enough to care. This is one of the hardest lessons to accept, because we naturally attach our hearts to what we love, what we hope for, and what we plan. When those things leave, it feels like a part of us leaves with them. You may find yourself replaying memories, rereading messages, walking past places that now feel different, thinking about how things used to be and wondering how they became what they are now. And in these moments, your heart may feel like it is searching for closure. But sometimes closure does not come in the form of an answer. Sometimes it comes in the form of trust. Trust that Allah knows what He is doing even when you do not. My dear brothers and sisters, let me speak to the feeling of being replaced, forgotten, or left behind. This feeling can be heavy. It can make you question your worth. It can make you wonder if you were ever truly valued. But remember this, if Allah removes something from your life, it is not because you are unworthy. It is because that thing was no longer worthy of the version of you that Allah is shaping. You may not see this right now. You may still feel the loss more than the protection. But one day, when you stand in a different place in your life with a different level of strength and awareness, you will look back and realize that what left you could not have walked with you to where Allah was taking you. My dear brothers and sisters, there is a quiet wisdom in how Allah removes things. He does not always take them away in one dramatic moment. Sometimes He lets them fade. Conversations become shorter. Effort becomes one-sided. Connection becomes thinner. And slowly, without a clear ending, something that once felt strong becomes distant. And this can be even more painful because there is no single moment you can point to and say, this is when it ended. It just slowly slips away. But even in this, there is mercy. Because sometimes, if Allah were to remove something all at once, it would break your heart too sharply. So He allows it to loosen over time so your heart can slowly learn to let go. My dear brothers and sisters, let me also speak to the times when Allah removes something you worked hard for. A job you aimed for, an opportunity you prayed about, a plan you built carefully. You did everything you thought you were supposed to do. You put in the effort, you made the dua, you waited with hope, and still it did not work out. This can feel especially confusing because it feels like you did your part, but the result did not come. But remember this, your effort